Well, welcome everyone. I'm so happy that you've made it for this webinar hosted by the Becca Schmill Foundation and Smartphone Free Childhood US. I'm Alexa Arnold, and I am the Chief of Staff and Managing Director to Jonathan Haidt and the incredible movement that we've been supporting on the heels of his book, The Anxious Generation, that came out actually a year ago next Wednesday. What we have seen in that year's time is incredible. I've spent my career in social impact, and I have never seen something like this before. And I think it's what happens when someone diagnoses and puts research and language to something that we all intuitively already felt and knew. John Haidt is so supportive of all of the educators, all of the policymakers, all of the parents who are really leading this movement. So we are here at your service, and we are full of gratitude. And I'll pass it with that over to Angela Arsenault.
I am so happy to be here. My name is Angela Arsenault. I'm a representative in the Vermont House of Representatives. When you start talking about phone-free schools, the conversation naturally leads to the question of storage. And students, of course, have concerns about keeping them safe and secure. And so people, legislators, policymakers start worrying about the cost, understandably. And we're here to tell you and hope that you'll tell everyone it doesn't have to cost much at all. And so today we have two wonderful examples of creative school leaders, one from Ohio and one from Vermont, who use simple, innovative strategies to implement best practice without a large financial outlay. And I'm very happy to introduce first Katrina Bailey, who is the principal of Dunbar High School in Ohio. And we also have with us today Blake Fabricant, who is the Dean of Students at the Sharon Academy here in Vermont. So we're going to start with a short video clip that aired on the Today Show.
Before the bell rings, students at Dunbar High School in Dayton, Ohio, place their phones into these envelopes labeled with their names and grades.
The mornings are just like TSA. Bags, purses.
Some parents worry about not being able to reach their kids in an emergency. David Lawrence is the Dayton Public Schools superintendent.
There have been emergencies throughout the history of school. We've always done a good job of being able to prepare for emergencies and then contact parents in a way that's meaningful and pretty swift based on the emergency.
It looks pretty low tech what you're doing.
It is an envelope. You can buy them at a convenience store. And so you put them in an envelope, store them, and then give them back. It's really easy.
What would be your advice to other school leaders who are watching this and wondering if they should implement this in their school?
I would say that it's cost-effective, quick, simple, and easy.
I am the principal here at Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School in Dayton, Ohio. We started as a district policy that required us to figure out a way to remove cell phones from classrooms. So in our district, we have 6 high school buildings. I am one of the smallest, being 571-ish students in inner city. So our simple, cost-effective way was multiple milk crates. And we have them by grade level. Find the envelope, drop your phone in, your headphone, your AirPods, your watches. Even if you brought an iPad, I take all of it. They get locked up in a closet in the main office. So the only ones who have access are the security guards, our office staff, and administrators. At dismissal, we have 2 locations that they can pick up their cell phones. Staff, they love it. Keep these phones, get the kids focused in class. There's less drama. There's not fights in the bathroom. There's not he said this on social media. So when I see him at lunch, now they're upset. At lunchtime, it's loud now. And that's because students aren't head down looking at cell phones. They're actually having conversations with each other. So they've even seen a change in the students. They're we actually talk to each other now. I didn't even know this person before, but now I'm forced to talk to them without a cell phone. If you get caught with your cell phone, the first time it's a parent pickup. The first 2 times are parent pickup. The 3rd time you now have an ISS and it's still a parent pickup. And then the 4th time you will now get a 3-day suspension. I know we're looking at the money. So for us, I had our business manager give me the numbers. For the last 2 years since we've started it, we've spent a total of $1,783. And that is with buying like utility carts that we store all the phone crates on and wheel them into the office. Buying the crates that we can put them in, the bubble wrapped envelopes and seal or like labels.
We're a small independent school in Vermont. We have 115 students. By independent, it's essentially like we're a charter school. We have no boarding students and 80% of our students are publicly funded. So we kind of serve a certain niche in a rural community. And we really pride ourselves on connection and collaboration and getting to know one another in relationships. And it was really hard for me to watch as somebody who is kind of the head of the students in the school to see these social connections and relationships deteriorate over the years. As Katrina said, for me, I think relationships and social education is just as important as academics. But if a student has a phone on them, they are still very likely to either check it or to leave the class more frequently to check it. We had students going to the bathrooms frequently, and I would say like, hey, I just saw you in the bathroom 15 minutes ago. You must really have to go, those kinds of things. But obviously they're checking their phones. It's an addiction, and to treat it otherwise is just foolish. I mean, it's designed to be addicting, and their prefrontal cortexes are not developed enough to regulate. And I would argue that most adults cannot regulate the addiction. So like, why can we expect a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 17, 18-year-old to do the same? It's a ridiculous expectation. They're also not getting this education at home. They're not getting this education anywhere else. So if we can have them for 7 hours a day and provide them with a phone-free environment, we are doing a major service to them. Guys, put your phones in the phone locker, please. And like, thank you. Thank you. Hi, Blake. Hi, Emily. Thank you. But we had an old mail slot, and it's probably 25 years old. And we picked it up, and I had my facilities guy and our assistant head of school design something. And with parts and labor and Home Depot plywood, it was $86. So if we were to have a school that was double or triple the size, say the size of Katrina's school, we could have 3 of these things and it would work. Well, something too that I want to mention before I get to staffing is, but just modeling, but just the adults modeling good behavior as well in terms of their phones. I think that's really important piece is just, for the most part, we sort of had a rules like you cannot use social media during the day, right? There's no texting. If you're going to use your phone, you have to be in your classroom, not in the hallway. You have to be in your office, not in the hallway. So I think really that is an important piece, because kids are really, they'll look for any kind of inequity they can find and expose any sort of loophole. So I think modeling that behavior as adults is really important as well. In terms of staffing, because we're a smaller school, it's easier. We have a student support team that consists of me as kind of the primary person, and then I have 4 or 5 people, and we sort of rotate. We also have our administrative assistant who works behind the desk, so she's always there. We've had about, in the course of the year, now it's March, we've probably had about 10 to 15 infractions. Most of them are the same students. Similar to Katrina, we have a consequence system. We're a little lighter. So our first one is just a warning. Second one is a call home, and the student then has to meet with either myself or one of our school counselors to talk about potential device addiction. So trying to get some restorative educational practice. The third one, we lock it up. The parent actually has to come in and collect the phone, and then we have a parent meeting. And the fourth one will lead to suspension. So far, we've had a few students get to level 2. Nobody has reached level 3. But yeah, it's a really streamlined, easy process. The end of the day, it can get a little congested because everybody's going in at once. So we just try to form lines and expedite the process because we have sheets that have the numbers that correlate. So sometimes adults can even pull them out, knowing which number goes to which student. So that makes it a lot smoother. But just
One attendee is asking about a high school with 3,000 to 4,000 students. So could you see if it's not a version of your system or any sort of changes that you would make to your system to accommodate a larger student population?
I mean, one of our schools or a couple of our high schools in the district have over 1,000 students. So like I use 2 exits, they might use 3 or 4 of their exits for exits and entry.
Back.
they-
So what about students who need to leave during the day, students who have free blocks, and if they're able to leave for lunch or, even to go to an appointment or something like that?
we let students take their phones if they're off campus. That's totally fine. And then seniors have senior privileges, so they go to lunch or they go get, they go to appointments or whatever. They're allowed to take their phones out of the phone locker if they are off campus with them, and then they return them. So it's a pretty simple process.
Can you tell us what resources, things like money, time, counseling, etc., your schools have been saving since going phone free? Maybe a little harder to quantify, but I don't know, Katrina or Blake, if you want to say anything about that.
It's been night and day for me. The amount of students leaving class, I would say, has been reduced probably by 80%. I mean, it's really remarkable. We have had 1 bullying and harassment investigation this year, as opposed to probably between 10 to 15 last year. It really just feels like a safer, happier place. Our school counselors, their loads are lighter. So and our teachers are happier. It really feels, I mean, from a financial perspective, I'm not sure, we didn't spend a lot of money. I'm not sure we're saving that much, but from a well-being perspective of the staff and being able to build relationships and rapport with students and deliver content and instruction, it's been like invaluable. So I can't recommend it enough.
I would have to agree with Blake that we have definitely saved time on Instagram investigations, because that's where most of my time went, is who said what on Instagram. For us, it was a huge money saver. We spent over $10,000 the previous year on, a different cell phone collection process. So we saved a whole lot of money doing it this way. And then just the time in the classroom I can't put a number to that, but you're in there and you're focused, and now you're actually willing to work and listen to teachers and not have that distraction.
Just really quickly and really specifically, how many staff members are involved in the collection and then redistribution in your school?
2 shifts of 6 people. So there's 12 staff in the morning and 6 staff in the afternoon.
What have you seen in terms of like academic success and things like that? If you just have any thoughts that you'd like to drop in, please feel free.
Yeah, drastic academic improvement. And it's really, it boils down to 2 or 3 things, really. Relationships with teachers have improved. You cannot receive instruction if you're not physically present, and you cannot receive instruction if you're distracted. So even having your phone on you in a yonder patch is physically distracting. If it's away from you and separated, it's much more of an ideal setting for learning. So we've seen drastic improvement in academics across the board, especially with our most at-risk students, who are the ones that tend to be the most addicted.
Awesome, thanks. How about you, Katrina?
Yes, there's been improvements. I'm not going to say drastic, but there's been drastic improvements in the engagement in the classroom. But looking at test scores, we have had some improvement, but for me, it was more of the engagement. Now I'm listening so that I can improve on the state test. I could care less about those, but it is what I'm seeing when I come and sit in classrooms. And the engagement piece and the interaction and the relationships has definitely increased.
Yeah, thank you so much for highlighting what I now just refer to always as social cohesion. And I think that we feel that as adults, we feel, the fabric of our culture kind of thinning because of this corrosive effect of social media and our inability to be, deeply present and attentive with each other. Our schools are a microcosm of our culture all around, locally and on a larger scale. And so it's really of vital import, I think, that we do everything we can to give our kids the best chance at becoming incredibly successful and happy and healthy adults. And that includes phone-free schools.